Welcome to the Unfinished Business Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Mulvin, and this is a show where I sit down with CEOs, leaders, visionaries, and creatives who are out there changing the world, making the world a better place through their business, through their organization, through their creativity, or through their leadership. Because it doesn't matter who you are or what you have accomplished. Even someone like Jose Rizal, at the peak of his life, his career, still had so many things that he wanted to get done, just like everybody we talk to on the show. And so we explore those stories here on Unfinished Business with Eric Mulvin.
Now I'm talking with leaders about their unfinished business tonight. Unfinished business. Where people in tech connect to amplify. Unfinished business. Human intelligence plus AI. Unfinished business. Moonshot goals that launch you high. Unfinished business. Listen close and you'll learn why.
Today's episode is brought to you by Pac Biz Outsourcing. At Pac Biz, we help NEMT, taxi, software, and e-commerce businesses outsource their customer support, back office tasks, tickets, emails, chats, phone calls, and dispatching with a dedicated remote team in the Philippines. We work with companies across the UK, Canada, and the US, helping provide 24/7 support, solving all those pain and headaches that you have running your call center with a team in the Philippines that takes care of it for you guys. As a matter of fact, we have one client that saves over $600,000 a year in payroll costs using dispatchers from the Philippines. And so if you want to learn more about working with Pac Biz Outsourcing, give us a call at 480-771-3009 or visit our website, pac-biz. All right. So if you guys are listening today, you might be able to tell a clue. You can hear the traffic and the cars behind me. If you're watching, it's very obvious that I am not at home. I'm actually out in Manila, Philippines. And also for the subscribers, if you guys have been watching, it's been a crazy last few weeks for me personally. And I got to share some of that on a past episode here. But I thought it'd be fitting because we're trying to keep the show going. I want to keep this every Tuesday, a new episode comes out. And actually, while I'm here in the Philippines, I have some really amazing guests that I have lined up. And you'll be hearing some of those stories here over the next couple weeks, couple months. But I wanted to give you guys an update on, with this episode, it's Memorial Day this week here in the US. And so with everything going on, I thought this would be a good week to just drop a little update on what are some of the unfinished business stories that we have going on right now in Pac Biz, and I give you guys an update on a little bit of what's happening. So first of all, yes, I'm in the Philippines. You guys hear the sponsor message all the time. That's my company, Pac Biz, and people ask me all the time, how often do you go to the Philippines? That's probably one of the first questions I get, because as you can imagine, it's tough enough running a business as it is with your employees right there that you see every single day, let alone managing a team all the way out here on the other side of the world. And so I think that's the first thing that comes to mind. People are like, how? You must go there all the time. And yes, I mean, I go here pretty frequently. I typically make it out here twice a year. And so this is my first visit for 2026. We made it a point to wait until the kids got out of school. We came out here last fall, October 2025, and we got 2 kids at home. And it's a bit hectic pulling them out of school. You can't miss that much school. You miss too many days and you get kicked out. And that creates other problems. You know, as important as a business is, to me, one of my biggest top priorities are raising 2 amazing daughters. And that would be difficult to do if they can't get into school. So yeah, that education is important. But that was a challenge coming out here in the middle of school. And that means there's only a very small window of time for us to come out as a family with the kids. We typically do a big month-long trip here, which, again, going back to, there's some challenges there, running a business and being on the road, being away from home, at least 4 weeks out of the year for just this one trip, all right? And then I do a second trip out here where I'm out here for a week. You add in conferences, you add in business trips, and then there's somewhere in there we're visiting family. There's not much time left for doing much else. And if you look at the school schedule, we got June, July, a little bit of August. And why not Christmas break? Well, Christmas break, those 2 weeks out of the year when everybody is off of school, every Filipino in the world decides that's a great time to come back home. And so ticket prices are outrageous. I could fly first class from Phoenix to the Philippines in the summer right now, June, May, cheaper than it would be to fly economy class in December. So coming out here, as much as I'd love to be out here for Christmas, not an option. But those are some of the challenges that I've got to deal with and I've got to face as business owner of a company that's global. We have 25% of our revenue comes from the UK. And yet we haven't had a single employee from our company. We've been there twice in the last 5 years. So that does present some challenges. And I think, to be honest, we are not the size company that we could be if we focus more on places like the UK. And so, yeah, you know what? Those are some challenges we're going to have to overcome. And in future episodes, maybe you'll hear me talk about what did we do to start growing UK again? It's a big market. The clients that we've got there, we've had for some of them 6, 7 years, 8 years, since 2018, 2019, and we haven't grown much. So maybe a question for you guys to think about in your business. Now, for me, it's obvious. Like, the UK side of the company, it's clear to segment them out. It's clear they're all in a whole other part of the world, and it's clear we're not growing there. But in your business, maybe you have your version of the UK that you don't even realize that's doing very well. I mean, think about, in business, you have this thing, lifetime value of a customer. And what does that customer bring in over the lifetime of that contract? And if a client is with you on average 5, 6, 7, 8 years, that lifetime value becomes pretty significant. We're talking like, could be depends on how big your company is. It could be millions of dollars. Easily becomes millions of dollars, even with a small business. And so there are opportunities like that sitting all over your company. And it just takes dedicated resources. It takes organization. It takes leadership. It takes teamwork. You know, we have these core values at Pac Biz that I do not talk about enough here on the show. So we got these core values at Pac Biz that I definitely do not spend enough time talking about on the show. But for us, it's family, respect, teamwork, compassion, and personal growth. And those things are all definitely needed if you want to take something like, what's that UK challenge in your company? What's the hidden revenue that you're not tackling that could get your company to grow? And as I'm literally here talking about this, our biggest client is in the UK. And so it's kind of crazy to me to think that we're not doing as much there. But again, I'm here in the Philippines, got 2 little daughters. We got business in Canada, UK. Only half of our revenue comes from the US. And so, you know what? Part of being a business owner and growing and trying to do so many things at once means some stuff falls behind. Maybe you don't get to grow in the UK like you'd like. But timing is also everything. And when the time is right, it will come together. Maybe it falls apart and we don't have any business in the UK anymore. I can tell you during COVID, when I was actually out here in the Philippines as well in March 2020, right before everything fell apart, we lost so much business from the UK. We had a couple companies go under, but a lot of people had to cut their staff overnight. The lockdowns that happened in the UK, in the EU, were so much different and so much more drastic than what we were dealing with in the US. And so you don't know what could happen that could wipe out a part of your business and take it away. So going back to, I'm all over the place bouncing around ideas, but timing is so critical. So I get reminded about this all the time. So here's another thing. If you guys are ambitious entrepreneurs, you have big, scary goals, you hear the stuff you hear, the answers to the question, unfinished business. We have an upcoming guest, without giving away their answer. They had an answer so big, I don't know, it'll be hard to top on our show here. And so when you have goals that are so big that just the fact that you hitting your goal, people around the world are going to know, because it's such a big goal that it would impact a decent size of the planet for you to be able to achieve that goal. When you have goals that big, that means there's not just one goal you have, there's probably dozens, there's several. And so sometimes some of those goals, they don't see themselves through. Sometimes those goals never see the light of day, or you work on it a bit and it dies and you're disappointed. So for me, there's so many things where I'm like my photography, my videography. You can only imagine the photos that I've been taking the last day here with this view and this scene of Manila. And right behind the camera, I've got the Manila Bay. We got to see the sunset out there. I did bring all my lenses, 400 millimeter lens, 14 millimeter lens, and 50 millimeter lens. And I brought a film camera. So you best believe I'm taking a lot of pictures. What do I do with all those photos? Right? They go on the computer, they sit on the hard drive. Maybe one out of the 5,000 photos I take ends up on Instagram or ends up online. Eventually, they'll end up on people's walls because I have photos like this across the Philippines, across the world as I travel. Nothing ever happens to them, which is crazy. But as we're here in Manila, and I think maybe you can hear the sirens, we're out, traffic right behind me here. But that's one of dozens of ideas that I have that I really want to make some progress on. I really want to grow in, and my business has several of those. Wait for this ambulance. The ambulance is pulling into here. Okay. So I talked about what's the UK in your business. Well, what's the photography in your business as well? Same thing. Something that you haven't, like an idea for a new service you want to launch, a new product. Maybe you have an idea for an invention that would help your industry. And you're like, gosh, I had this idea for years and this would kill it. And you haven't taken any steps towards it. What my business coach likes to say to me, and not just business coach, all the people I work with that are like, I'm so sorry I didn't get this done. I want to get this going. We haven't gotten this completed yet. So that means we can't start this. We can't start working with your software yet because we got to get this in place. And they all say the same thing. Eric, you're fine. Do not worry. Don't stress. You are exactly where you need to be. And timing, again, is everything. So now maybe you're sitting there listening and you haven't got your butt up off the couch and you haven't started your business. That's a different story. Go out there into the world and start changing the trajectory of your life. Changing, it's in the song. If you listen to the theme song for the podcast, like what happens when you start saying yes to things? You know, if you've been working your 9 to 5 and you've been grinding away and you got all these ideas, maybe you're doing some side hustle stuff and you haven't fully committed. Well, when you start saying yes and you start going out and you start meeting with people, you start talking to potential customers, you start talking to potential clients, things all of a sudden change. Like what was no possibilities because you're just sitting at home not telling anybody about your idea is now potentially infinite possibilities. That's how Pac Biz got started. We had our one client, and I thought after 1 year of working with this one client, and we lost like $12,000 our first year because we had one customer with offices, we had air conditioning to pay for, internet. We had somebody that had to already start overseeing some of the team and help with admin stuff and payroll and scheduling. So we lost money that first year. But because that first client of ours connected us to another customer, another business in the US that, hey, I know these guys. They use the same software we just switched to, and they're looking for a call center. So I'm going to connect you. All of a sudden, they needed 16 people. But if I wouldn't have made the commitment to go out and start the call center in the first place and get that first customer with 3 employees taking calls for them, then what would have happened? None of those other possibilities would have happened. And so, yeah, there's a timing that's a factor, but also you got to create your own luck. And it's not going to happen sitting at home doing nothing. And also that amazing idea, maybe your business is established. For me, we're not going to grow in the UK unless we put some effort towards it. We put a person out there to start visiting the UK and visit our customers and go to conferences. We put a person to work UK hours to start calling into the UK market. So there's my plan. I need to execute. I need to hand it off to my COO. But I've got a dozen of those things. So there's only so much time and resources that you have. And that's part of the fun part about being a business owner and the challenge. You know, if everyone had infinite resources, There'd be nothing holding anyone back from doing anything. We'd all do everything we'd want to do, but there aren't infinite resources. You have limited cash. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. And so even people like Jeff Bezos, who's out trying to build a space company while he's got Amazon, while he's buying healthcare businesses, while they're getting their fingers in everything. But the guy only has the same 24 hours that you and I have. He doesn't have any more. Now, maybe he could do a better job leveraging hundreds of thousands of people for his workforce, but it's taken him a long time to get to that point. So for you and I, again, what things do we have going on in our life that can move the needle? So here's something to tie this all up, and then we'll wrap it for this little mini episode out here in Manila today. So what do you do if you're in a situation like that? Maybe you've got 2 or 3 ideas. Maybe you don't have a dozen. Maybe you have 1 or 2. Write them down. Create some kind of matrix for yourself. If you're into AI, like word vomit everything into a chat, put it all into a text file. What I like to do, go for a walk. Use a voice recorder on your Apple Watch or some voice recorder, anything, talking to your phone, and just drop everything on your mind. And then let AI sort it out and then go from there. Now, don't take the suggestion that AI said, this is what you should do, and then go run with it. Have it give you ideas. Have it give you the pros and cons. Or do this yourself. Write it down on the matrix. What are the pros and cons? What do I gain from executing this idea? What is it going to cost me for time, for money, resources? What will I not be able to do because I'm working on this idea? So if you have those, and I need to take my own advice and work on some of this myself, write it all out and then make a plan. Now it's May 2026, right? We're almost halfway to the year. So we'll probably talk a lot over these next couple episodes about goals, where you're at, mid-year, where do you want to be? So this is a great way to do this for yourself. So take a look at where you're at midway through the year. Where do you want to be at the end of 2026? Do you want to be sitting on the balcony in another country, enjoying time, maybe not working, but you haven't taken time off in 3 years? Well, what can you do between now and November to set yourself up, to empower your team, or start building a team so that it's not just you? Because at least on this show, with Unfinished Business, the kind of dreams and ideas and stuff that we talk about here require a lot of people. They require teamwork. They require leaders. They require a loyal staff, a hardworking staff that is all on the same page, that matches your core values. For us, we look for people with family, respect, teamwork, compassion, and personal growth. How do you execute these crazy ideas quickly? Well, that's one way to do it. If you have a team of people that all share the same core values, then you know when situation comes up, they're going to lean on family. They're going to lean on teamwork. They're going to, when things are tough and, you lose focus, why are we doing this? You need that compassion to remember, to have the empathy to remember, why are we doing what we're doing? Why does this business exist? For us, is to help customers so they don't have the pain of their call center and they could manage their business. But what is it in all these different companies you're out there trying to solve? We're out trying to do so much, out there trying to change the world, trying to shape the future. And that's a lot of work, especially it's an uphill battle against all the forces that are out there trying to make the world the same or trying to suck up all the resources for their already gigantic company to make it even bigger. And so I think all of you guys listening, I don't think I have people like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos listening to the show. We've got everyday entrepreneurs running everyday companies. Maybe you make $500,000 a year. Maybe you make 10, 20, 50 million a year. Maybe you make 200 to $1 billion a year. We're still small compared to these giants. And we have an opportunity to shape the future. And so for me, if all these amazing leaders listening to the show can organize their ideas, their thoughts, and their team to start working towards these goals, we're going to be better off. And so I hope what you heard today was helpful. Go out, take all those ideas you got in your head, start bouncing those off of somebody, of a mentor, off of ChatGPT. Start breaking them down to some things that you could accomplish here these next 6 months, the next year, 5 years. Maybe there's some ideas that you won't be able to even start thinking about for another 10 years. That's fine. That's what happens when you have big, crazy goals and ideas, right? But what you do the next 6 months will determine if those big, crazy dreams you want to get done 10 years from now will actually happen, or is it just a dream? And so get those ideas down and start taking control of your future. And hopefully by the end of 2026, just like myself, I hope one more of my crazy ideas comes out and makes it out to the world and more people get to see it and experience it. And maybe for me, it's art, photography, but also other stuff in business. What is that in your business? What is that in your life? And what can you do the second half of 2026 to get there? So I didn't know where today would go with the episode. And so I hope this was useful. Drop a comment. I check all the comments on YouTube, or periodically check the comments on YouTube and Instagram. And so if you put something there, I'll likely see it, or shoot me a message. If you guys have my cell, shoot me a text. I'd love to hear some feedback. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching. If you want to hear more stories, we typically have guests with interviews. And so if you want to hear more stuff like that, then please make sure you subscribe at Biz with Eric on social media, or look for the Unfinished Business Podcast with Eric Mulvin on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, anywhere where you listen to podcasts. And check us out next week. There's an amazing interview with Derek Maines, who is the owner of the company, The Process Fixer, who is kind of rebranding into what he's going to call The System. But amazing episode. These last two, we had some technical issues, but we're able to still get it out and still put together a really great story. And so look for that Tuesday next week on Unfinished Business. And then following in June, we have some really great interviews lined up with people right here in the Philippines. So check it out. And thank you guys for watching. I love the support and feedback I've been getting from the show. And it's motivating me to be out here in Manila, still recording episodes for you guys. And so thank you guys for watching. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode. See ya.
The world's changing fast. We're talking to business leaders who adapt, innovate, and keep moving forward, because nobody's business is ever finished. This is Unfinished Business with Eric Mulvin. Took my last check from Yelp, turned it into a taxi ride, earned my street MBA, lessons you can't buy. 6 LLCs later, Pac Biz at new heights. Now I'm talking with leaders about their unfinished business tonight. Unfinished business, where people in tech connect to amplify. Unfinished business, human intelligence plus AI. Unfinished business, moonshot goals that launch you high. Listen close, and you'll learn why. CEOs and visionaries shaping what's to come, building more than profit, lifting everyone. Every path's unique, but it takes a choice to grow. Set your goals and shape the way your future goes. Unfinished business, where people in tech connect to amplify. Unfinished business, human intelligence plus AI. Shot goals that launch you high. Unfinished business. Listen close, and you'll learn why. Unfinished business, where people in tech connect to amplify. Unfinished business, human intelligence plus AI. Unfinished business, moonshot goals that launch you high. Listen close, and you'll learn why. Subscribe, look for. Subscribe, look for. Biz with Eric online. And follow Unfinished Business on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you listen.